This is Fred Beck from Fred Talks Fighting. Today I'm very lucky joined by Barry Jones. So thank you very much for coming on, Barry.
My pleasure, mate. How are you keeping?
I'm all good. And what's going on with you, Barry?
Well, the same as everyone else, really, mate. But I was sat at home eating chocolate left over from Christmas and getting, fat, for the want of a better word. Rotund, I guess, is a nicer way of putting it.
Well, it seemed probably everyone to move up a weight class because all the weight they put on during lockdown. We'll start for you in your amateur career. And you grew up in Wales. And what I find unusual is back then the main sport in Wales was rugby. But you did boxing. How come you didn't take up in rugby?
Well, I played rugby because, as you know, rugby is God in Wales. Always has been, always will be. And so you play rugby, and I enjoyed rugby. But I'm from a big council estate in Cardiff, so being from a council estate, sports is a big thing. And there was a boxing gym in my area, and I had an elder brother who was a more talented athlete than I was, and wasted talent, I'm afraid. And I followed him down the gym, like most younger brothers do, just follow your older brother to see where he goes. And I followed him down there, and I fell in love with it. Not straight away, I would say, but I fell in love with the training more than the fighting, because I was a hyperactive kid. I'm not far off 50, and I'm still hyperactive now, but I was crazily just wouldn't keep still. So boxing training was something you're always doing something. There's never any rest, very rarely any rest in the training. So as you know, and back then it was really tough because there was no like drinking water or lab rubbish. It was stupid, like how really military run boxing gyms. But I loved it. So I didn't want to be a boxer, but I wanted to do the boxing training. And then once I had my first fight, I lost. But as anyone who ever been punched in the face will tell you, it's an addiction. It's a weird kink addiction of getting hit that you just want it more and more. It's the weirdest thing.
I guess that's inspiration right there. But Barry Jones, former world champion, lost his first amateur fight. And you boxed in amateur boxing club, Highfields Gym.
Yes, yeah. We had some... Our gym it wasn't a great senior gym because the main trainer wasn't the nicest of blokes. So when most boxers got to 17, they left because they couldn't take up his rubbish, his crap. But as a schoolboy gym, we were one of the best ones in the country, in the UK. Phenomenal. Like my brother was a British champion, Clayton Smith, Timmy James, myself as an international European silver medalist, and Barry Thurgood was a British finalist. We had loads of Welsh champions every year. We were Welsh internationals all the time. It was a great gym to learn from. So you didn't learn nothing from the trainer, but you learned more from the boxers around you. So I learned how to box, copying my older brother, Clayton Smith, and people like that, Timmy James, people older than me in my boxing club. I just watched them on the bag, on the pad, sparring, and that's what formed me as a fighter.
I guess if lockdown happened when you were a boy, you could have just sparred your brother at home. Anyway, for amateur boxing, you won a silver medal at the European Championships. Moving on to the professional game, you turned pro at 17, when you could have waited 2 more years to go to the Commonwealth Games, which were a lot bigger in those days. How come you decided to turn pro at 18 then?
Yeah, it was a regret, looking back. And my father wasn't very happy about, not me turning pro so young. And you're right, the Commonwealth Games we didn't have the success because we didn't have the investment of being able to fight around the world. So we didn't have the success of the World Championships and European Championships as we're having in the last sort of 10, 15 years. So the Commonwealth Games was a big one because it's on BBC. That's why you become a name from it. The Richie Woodall won a silver medal in the Olympics, but stayed amateur to win a gold in the Commonwealth 2 years later because of the profile he had. And that's how big it was back then. So I regret that. I'm not saying I would have won. I would have fancied myself to win a medal and probably a gold, but there's no guarantee that. But my pro trainer came to my gym and he just, said how good I was and I wouldn't say poached me, but encouraged me to turn pro. And I was blinded by the compliments, to be honest. That's how it goes, I'm afraid. Looking back, he probably shouldn't have been allowed in there. I'm not slagging him off. His name's Pat Thomas. He's the loveliest of man, and I love him with all my heart. But it probably shouldn't have been allowed. My amateur trainer shouldn't have allowed him in the gym, to be honest, to do that, because he was a fantastic fighter of his own right, a British champion at 2 weights, and so skillful. So to see him do his stuff and him to tell you could do this but better, you'll be a world. To be fair, he did tell me I was going to be a world champion from the first day he met me, and was right. It wasn't with him, but he was correct. So, he believed in me and seen something that I had. So, yeah. And like anyone, when you get fed compliments, whether you're a good-looking woman or a young athlete, then you sort of you get directed and steered towards those compliments, and then get sort of not manipulated, but sort of manipulated into doing what they want you to do. And that's what happened. But hey, it didn't work out too bad. That's the bottom line.
I guess when you're an amateur, that's music to your ears. And so you won a few different titles as a professional. You won the international featherweight title, and then you won the world title, WBO world title. And I just want to touch on your world title for a second. You're actually coming off against a draw against David Morris. Did you have any demons inside you or worries going into that fight?
No, because I'm honest about my career. I'm the most honest person you'll find about my personal career. I don't profess to be the best fighter in the world, even when I was world champion. It's politics, and that's the way it goes. So I understood that. I was lucky, and I accept that luck, and I take it every day of the week. But the David Morris fight, it wasn't a draw. I beat him, and if I thought any other way, I would tell you. I've had some close fights. Michael Devaney, who was when I'll be a British champion, I boxed in my third fight, and that was a close fight. If it would have went in Devaney's favour, I couldn't have argued. I couldn't have. You know what I mean? Neil Swain was I won that fight, but that was a close-ish fight. I would have thought I was unlucky, but it wouldn't have been a robbery if he would have got it. And so I've had a bit of, but that David Morris fight was a joke of a decision. It really was, and everyone there thought the same. Even the boxing news said it was the worst decision of the year. So it was. They don't say that about a 6-rounder, and why would they ever even mention that? So it was ridiculous, but it didn't hold me back. But I was gutted about it, of course, because then it makes sense that I'm vulnerable and stuff like that. So it didn't give me any demons. That's what I'm trying to say, because I didn't just know. The only person I thought I lost was the referee, who used to score fights at the time. So yeah.
And how did it feel to win the belt against Peter Dudson?
My first 12-rounder, my first title fight, and what was most important about that, I was a super featherweight. So I was a small featherweight who was genuinely thinking about going down to super bantamweight. But then I get an opportunity to fight for the title at super featherweight. So theoretically, 2 weights above what my fighting weight would have been. And I was tentative about taking it, because I didn't care about losing. I didn't want to lose. No one wants to lose. But I was willing to take that risk to win or lose. You have to take that risk to put yourself out there to achieve anything. But to have all the odds stacked against you, you got to have a little bit of sensibility about it. But my father thought Peter was, even though he was big and strong, he wasn't the biggest of punchers. And even though it was going to be a hard night, he thought I had the movement to do it. But I'd never done 12 rounds before, and that was my worry. Peter over 6 rounds, I could dance around and probably, fiddle my way through it, whatever weight he was, to stop him. But yeah, and I got through it. It was a hard fight, and it was a great learning fight for me. And Peter was just won the title against Dean Phillips from Swansea. It was a real big super featherweight, good punch, and Peter wore him down and stopped him. So there was plenty of nerves, but you need those nerves to give you the edge. So yeah, I trained so hard for that fight. I was so fit. I was fit as I'd been probably ever in my life, to be fair. And yeah, and I think I boxed well. I think I boxed better, but I boxed as well as he allowed me to fight, to be fair. And it was a good fight. It was a good platform for me, and it was a good entertaining fight to watch. And I wasn't in too many entertaining fights because of my style that I had, but that was a good fight to watch, and it helped me. Yeah, it helped me a lot. So yeah, I love Peter. Me and Peter are still friends now, thank God, and because he's an animal. I beat him in the ring, but I wouldn't beat him outside. That's for sure.
And even though your style wasn't particularly entertaining, you're still able to sell a lot of tickets throughout your career.
Yeah, well, I think it's because I'm charismatic to the guys. I'm good looking to the women. I was just like a triple threat, really. You know what I mean? Now, my brother was a football boy, so a lot of his mates come to watch me. I'm from a council estate, so the community was there. So a lot of my friends would I had a lot of childhood friends that I've known since from day dot. So they would come, and they were in the journey from the beginning. So, and also when I was turned pro at 18, I don't know a lot of people. So my dad, and also my family as well. My other part of my family are from a different part of Cardiff. So there was a different demographic there who come. So yeah, it builds up. It builds up very quickly. And I think if I ever carried my career would have carried on, I would have been an even bigger ticket seller. I probably would have been the biggest ticket seller Cardiff had seen for a long time. But yeah, that was it. So that was it. I wasn't a super popular person. I'm not saying I was the loveliest guy on the planet, but I had a lot of influences. My dad worked for the council, so we had a lot of people, my brother, a lot of friends, and also when you win and it's a good night out, it builds momentum. Everyone's being involved on something that looks like it's going to go somewhere.
And you mentioned your career stopping there. I mean, I think lots of boxers, when they retire, they feel fulfilled with their career, or they feel like they could have done a bit more. How did you feel when your career was over and you got forced to retire?
It gets better with age. The longer you go, the more you're happy and content. Though you're never content. Of course, every career could be better, and we all have a hard luck story. And I have a genuine hard luck story with the brain scan stuff. What happened to me, but it's also I was lucky. You got to try and spin it that way. I could have had a problem with my scans before I won the world title, and just being a kid who retired undefeated in 16 fights or 17 fights. So or I had a break in between winning a title, that little break you talked earlier. What if I never go back? I'm an undefeated in 15, 14 fights. Never fight again. No one knows who I am, and I never get to do what I'm doing today. So I've been lucky, and I've been lucky. I've had loads of bad luck, but I've had enough good luck as well. So you're crying about stuff sometimes. You forget about all the good stuff that you've had through it. Things could have been better. The problem I had is I got to the pinnacle. I got to where the cash out, where you all want to be, where all the fun happens, and I didn't get it. I had my 15 minutes were reduced to 3 minutes. 15 minutes of fame reduced to 3 minutes because of what happened, and I felt bitter about that. Initially, hugely bitter about that. But you get over it. You get over it. I've seen some talented fighters just fall out of the game because of lack of opportunities, lack of motivation, lack of luck. Luck's the biggest part in any sport, especially boxing. And they haven't had it. And they've been better fighters than me, better fighters than some of the fighters who we deem as great fighters as well. And you just have to roll with it. And yeah, that's how. So I'm more philosophical as I get older.
And say your career had continued after you won the world title, what fights would you have taken?
So when I won the world title, my ideal plan would have been, everyone wants to fight Nazim Hamid. I'm super featherweight, but I'm really a super bantamweight. And featherweight would have been great because he was the cash-out fight. He was the fight you've done the most money with. I wanted to fight Steve Robinson because he was a hero of mine, and also we're on the same street. We used to live in the same street as kids. 2 world champions from the same street, from the same council estate. That would have been a good fight. I would have fancied to win. He would have walked through me and stopped me, of course, and maybe he would have. But I would have fancied I could have danced my way around him and I'll fox him and I'll beat him on points. So, and a big fight for the city as well. So, two Welshmen boxed for the world title for the first time, from the same city, the same street, the same council estate. It's a great story. And Naz was the fight because Naz was the first Yemeni world champion, and my grandfather's from the Yemen, which not many people know. So that would have been a good story. He says he's the best fighter from the Yemen, and I go, hang on, I'm the best fighter from the Yemen because my grandfather was from the Yemen. So that would have been a good little story as well. So that was a fight I wanted to have. I wouldn't have beat Naz, not a million years, but I would have tried like all the others did, and I would have made a good account of myself, but I would have got beat. But I wouldn't. But at that time, I believed I would have got it. So yeah, so you all have this path of greatness, but I wasn't a great fighter. I was a good fighter, but I didn't have that something, lack of power, lack of strength. But I used my potential the best. I could have been a better fighter, training better. I could have had more success. I think I would have had a run of a few fights as a champion, to be fair. But ultimately, I come up against a genuine world-class fighter like Naz, and he does what happened in my very last fight. That's the truth of it. And I'm fine with that. You can only be as best you can be. And you shouldn't get penalised for getting beat by someone who's too good for you. You should get penalised for not wanting to take that chance. That's what you should get penalised for. Or you shouldn't feel upset about yourself or disgusted with yourself because you got beat by somebody who's better than you. Be upset with yourself if you haven't prepared right and you got people, somebody who's not as good as you. That's fair enough. Things happen and you have to roll with it and adapt. But ultimately, if someone's too good for you, as long as you've prepared right and done the best you could do, and you try your best, that's all that matters. And I've gone in, and that's been my philosophy through all my career.
That's quite a good way to think about it. I feel the fighters that step up to take the big fights nowadays, even if they do lose, they still don't get enough credit for stepping up. And Barry, you're a terrific boxing analysis. We just had the fight last weekend between Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell. What are your thoughts on that fight?
It was Garcia's coming out party, and I think he did really well. And then everything looks like he's the heir apparent. Though in the weight he's at, he's probably not. But he's the next big thing because of his social media platform and how popular he is. And so he's a he can reach he's a reach out star from the sport, but he can transcend the sport. Of course, he already has. You look for the negatives because you have to. That's your sort of job to break it down. And people will say he got dropped was a negative. I think him getting dropped showed his positive because he got up and he takes a good shot. He takes a good shot. That wasn't just a glancing blow. That was a full bloody right on the button shot. That was off a fighter who's not a big puncher but can punch his weight and delivers a punch correct. So, but he has a few flaws. His legs are too straight. His back's too straight. He's too straight. His chin too high. His back's too straight. His legs are a little bit too straight. And that's why I think he could punch harder because he don't bend his legs enough when he throws his punches. Imagine if he bent his legs and used that as leverage to some of those shots. But what he has, and I'll mix something like Gary Logan, who's a really good trainer and analyst, has been saying recently, he has those fast twitch fibers. They're tremendous. So he can react really quick. And he gets that snap in the shot. And that's where he hurts you. And then he has that natural strength as well. So he's a good fighter. He's not the best in the division, but he's still young, and it just makes that lightweight division even more exciting. So I think he was fantastic.
I think the lightweight division is really exciting now. They're comparing it to the Four Kings, which you never know might turn out. The only reason why they call the welterweight division Four Kings is because those guys, they all fought each other. Duran, everyone fought each other. Just got to make sure the fights happen. And then moving on to his opponent, Luke Campbell. You mentioned being unlucky earlier. I think Luke Campbell's been quite unlucky throughout his career. Where do you think Luke Campbell goes from here?
In this generation, you have a few losses. You say maybe call it a day, but it doesn't need to be that way. It's not the losses. It's the damage that you occur, and it's ambition. For his age, he's not the youngest of fighters anymore. But he hasn't had a lot of damage. He can carry on. He's a world class fighter. He can still be in competitive fights, and he can still fight for the world title again. But you'd have to look where he would go. He don't beat Gervonta Davis. He doesn't beat Teofimo Lopez. I don't think he beats Garcia again. I think Garcia would do a better job this time round. Devin Haney, I think that's a route for him, but again, he'll struggle with him. So, and Lomachenko, of course, who's forgotten about now, but he doesn't beat him, and maybe Lopez doesn't the second time. Who knows if they fight again? So he's unfortunate. He's just been in a really phenomenal weight around his time. That's just the luck and bad luck you have in your career. You're good enough to be a world champion, but the world champions in your weight are just exceptional. Sometimes you get a weight there's a lull, and you can sneak in and win a world title like I did. But sometimes every fight, every champion is genuine, full-blooded world class, and you can't get a look in. So he can carry on his career, but whatever he does, he's had a fantastic career. The amateur career, the Olympics, the European Championships, the world medals as well. He's had box for world titles. He's earned good money. I would hope, and so I think it would be a good time for him to bow out now. To be honest, you can chase that money for too long, and then the damage you incur as you get older will only increase as you get older when you retire. So you have to start thinking ahead a little bit now.
I mean, he's with Eddie Hearn, who's a fantastic promoter, probably one of the best promoters in boxing. And one other fight everyone else wants to see, any boxing fan or any casual boxing fan wants to see, is Anthony Joshua Tyson Fury. Who do you think wins that one? Obviously, it won't be in England because of the British Boxing Board of Control cancelling all fights here. But I'm expecting in April, May, probably in Saudi Arabia or America. And anyway, wherever it is, who do you think wins it?
Fury, I would say, listen, Joshua could walk right through him. He has the potential to do that, but I think it's only one way Joshua wins, and there's a few ways that Fury can win. I think the adaptability of Fury, especially the way he approached the Wilder second fight, which I didn't think he could do, just shows, that he has enough in his armory, in his intelligence, to outfox and outbox Joshua, and potentially stop him as well, because I think he could tire Joshua out. Joshua's a good boxer. Joshua don't get the credit for this. Joshua keeps his shape really well. elbows tucked in tight, hands nice and high, throws right on the centre of the guard. A lot of things you want to teach the amateurs. How you do things right. You transfer the waist from the core, you turn when you throw your punches, everything's correct. Everything's inside your body frame. There's a lot of things right. But he's muscle bound. So when he misses, it takes a lot out of you. You get him up on his toes, a lot of weight to carry around. See, being an athlete and a natural boxer are two different things. Fury's boxed all his life. So him dancing around, that big, massive lump he is, him dancing around is something he's done all his life. So it's natural to him. That's not work. Him dancing around for 12 rounds is not work. Throwing punches is work. Fighting's work. But the dancing is something you can do natural. For Joshua, it's not, because he started late. He's a tremendous athlete and he's fit as a fiddle. But if you get him to do, if you make him fight at a higher pace, or you slow him down if he wants to fight at a higher pace, he'll struggle more than Fury will. There's a lot of those factors. But he could also just walk right through Fury and catch him and put him to sleep. He has that potential. So I think it's a great fight. But I think almost everyone really would have to put Fury as the favourite.
I think Anthony Joshua is a pure, great textbook boxer. And Tyson Fury is just so unorthodox. Anyway, I've only got one more question because I know you're a busy man. You're a great analyst. And do you have any tips for any future analysts?
No, because you're coming for my job. So get stuffed, pretty much. I don't know. You're good because someone tells you you're good. You can't think, you should have confidence in yourself. I lack that, believe it or not. So tell him. So when you tell I can't tell people I'm good. That's got to be someone else's opinion. But there's a few things you can learn, and it's projecting your voice. When you're doing commentary, it's projecting your voice. The main commentator will do it. He's always the loudest because he's trained. So he'll project his voice. He'll be loud. He'll sit up and he'll almost shout. And as a co-commentator, the analyst, you tend not to do that. Slowing down your talk, especially when you have a local accent like I do, then I'm a very fast talker, as you can tell, but I'm slower on TV than I am in person. So you have to remind yourself to slow yourself down. But the main thing is know your sport, know your subject pretty much, whatever you're going to do, whether you're doing an interview or you're talking about breaking down a fight. Do your research. You're not going to go crazy. Don't overdo it because you'll drown yourself in information. Know what you're looking for. Go for it, and just be honest. Just be honest, because unless you're a real bullshitter, you'll get caught out if you're trying to be something you're not. So just be honest. I just give my honest opinion. I don't always get it right. I like to think I get it right more than I get it wrong, but I don't always get it right. But it's my honest opinion. When I'm doing commentary and then breaking down fights, I think I only say what I see, or what I think I could say, what I think could happen. It don't always happen, and you might see something different, but don't mean I didn't see it. And if you agree with me, then you're right. If you don't agree with me, you're wrong. It's not. No, it's not. I think that's it. I think it's projecting your voice is a big thing. And for people, not for you, for budding journalists and stuff, that's a big thing. It's really, you have to be the commanding voice. So your question has to be heard and respected. Not what you say, how you say it is more important than what you say. And that's something that we're not taught as ex-boxers coming into the sport, but into the TV world. But that's something that's very mindful for anyone wanting to do that sort of job.
All right, there's quite good points that you have to bear those in mind. All right, thank you very much for your time, Barry. I really appreciate it. I know you're a very busy man. And where can people find you on social media at?
Oh yeah, I'm I don't know what I am actually. Barry Jones 1927. Am I on Instagram? I don't do too much. And Barry Jones Box on Twitter, I think I am. But who cares, man? Follow Fred. That's all. That's the matter. I don't need any followers. Follow Fred. I don't care. I don't want followers. Follow you, mate.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Barry.
Take care, fella. Bye, mate.